Good morning, good afternoon. Thanks for attending the Oracle Integration Partner webinar. I'm Jürgen Kress, part of the Oracle Product Management team. In case you missed one of our webcasts, on-demand recordings are available on Oracle Video Hub, including presentation for download. In today's presentation, Niall Commiskey and Nathan Angstadt will give us an update from Oracle CloudWorld. Good afternoon, Niall.
Good afternoon to you, Jürgen. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, and I'm calling from your hometown in Bavaria. Where are you?
I'm in the Oracle London City office, looking out on a big construction site, and it's raining.
Oh. In Bavaria, the weather is pretty good.
Good.
So with
Enjoy.
us is, thank you. With us is also Nathan. Nathan, good morning.
Morning, Jürgen. How are you?
I have jet lag because I spent the last 2 weeks with you guys, which was awesome.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. It was great seeing you out in California and Las Vegas.
Yeah, CloudWorld was super, and today our topic is CloudWorld. So we will give an update on the announcements of CloudWorld. What's the highlight from your side?
Well, the highlight from my side, I think, is the tremendous enthusiasm that we saw from our customers and our partners out at CloudWorld on some of the initiatives that we have. I'm sure we'll talk about all of those later on. But we had quite amount of enthusiasm and pretty much everywhere we went. Jürgen, you know this. Pretty much everywhere we went, someone who was stopping us and talking to us about Oracle integration. So it was actually a great conference.
Fully agree. We had more than 1,000 people in our session, so thanks for everybody for coming out to Las Vegas. If you didn't have the chance to come to Las Vegas, today we will give you some key announcements and also where you can find further information and download the presentation. So objective of the call is to give a summary of CloudWorld and to bring you up to speed. So let's get started. Please pay attention to the Oracle Safe Harbor statement. Please block and tweet only about services and functionality which is available today. Quick housekeeping, please feel free to ask your questions via the conference Q&A tool. At the end of the webcast, we will answer them. Slides will be available at Video Hub and at the community website. Please share your feedback via the Zoom survey at the end of the webcast. Today's webcast is live and we are recording. For today's agenda, I will kick off the webcast with a short introduction and the new positioning of Oracle integration and business automation platform. Niall will talk about disaster recovery, and the new functionality we partner with is the API catalog. And Nathan will highlight one of the wonderful demos that we presented during Oracle CloudWorld. So let's get started. Who is using Oracle integration? Oracle integration is part of your life. We use it every day. When you book a hotel, when you order a coffee at 7-Eleven, when you stream a movie from Walt Disney, when you buy flowers at the wonderful company TerraFlora, and when you pay a bill, the point of sale system and retail banking is connected with Oracle integration. Oracle integration is part of your life, and how do we achieve it? We release 6 versions per year, and we now announce that more than 6,000 customers are running Oracle integration, and we are processing 1 billion messages a week. Congratulations and thank you for the astonishing business. So Oracle integration is a business automation platform. At CloudWorld, we released new building blocks like robotic process automation. We combine the workflow functionality and integration. We have event logging, and we have new functionality also on the low-code side and the AI side. Oracle integration offers pre-built connectivity for Oracle SaaS like ERP, HCM, and CX. We also support Oracle E-Business Suite and the Oracle Applications business, but also third-party applications. So the main message and how we position Oracle integration is you can connect, you can automate, and you can innovate with AI. So all our Oracle integration sessions are available for download. You can find the Oracle integration guide with the 11 sessions at bit.ly/OIC/OCW 2024. And you can download most of the sessions at Watch OCW 2024, including the keynote session from Deepak Arora, but also all the other sessions, like the robotic process automation session from Nathan, or from Anthony Reno, the best practice session, or my session on Connect and Extending SaaS. So CloudWorld was a huge success. We had more than 1,000 attendees. Please make use of the material. And today you will see most of the new announcements. Besides that, the Oracle Integration Customer Success Webcast is available on demand. And the next one will be taking place in October 9th. We also launched a customer newsletter with the latest updates for our customers. And we continue to offer the hands-on bootcamps. The hands-on bootcamps are available for any kind of Oracle partners who would like to try Oracle integration. There are 3-day trainings, including hands-on. Upcoming schedules include the US, Europe, Middle East and Africa, and India. For registration, please see our resource page. As a follow-up of the bootcamp, we would like to invite you to become a certified implementation specialist. All information for partners is in our monthly newsletter published, including the bootcamps, including all the events and webcasts, and also the technical articles, certification, also the link to our community Slack channel and the community website. At the community website, you can find all information at a central place. So today's webcast is recorded and will be available on demand, including the presentation for download at Oracle Video Hub. With that short introduction, I would like to hand over to Niall.
Hello, everybody. So, folks, welcome to this webcast. I'm going to be covering two themes. One is the new Oracle API Catalog and Consumer Portal, and also the to be released in 2410 OIC Oracle Managed Disaster Recovery. So I'll spend about the same time on each of these guys, but first of all, I would begin with the API Catalog and Portal. Now, this is an offering that's available on the Oracle Cloud Marketplace. So if you go to the Oracle Cloud Marketplace, and it's from a company called Digital ML that already have an offering called Ignite. And within there's their standard Ignite, and you will see here, they have a new offering, which is the Oracle Integration Cloud API Catalog and Portal by Digital ML. So in other words, what is this actually giving us? So this is actually giving us the following. It's a catalog where you can, for all of you can harvest your OIC projects, manage the life cycle of these OIC projects from a developer perspective. So in other words, within the catalog, the admin can import projects and their integrations into the catalog. They can then augment the information there. We will see all of this in the demo. They can then publish those integration APIs to the consumer portal. So a catalog of all your OIC projects, integrations, and APIs with all the functionality an administrator needs to manage that portfolio. And then a branded consumer portal. In other words, your customers can put their logo in the portal so their developers get that in-house feeling. And of course, within the consumer portal, the developers can actually go in, browse the APIs, ask questions about those APIs, try out those APIs, and then register to use those APIs. Okay, so now this offers functionality customers have been asking for. Now we've got many customers, of course, asking for like, what do you have in respect of API management? Now, when we say, okay, we've got OCI API Gateway, that's kind of like runtime related, but what about the life cycle of the APIs themselves? So this was something that was missing within our portfolio. Now we have it. Again, it's a product available from Digital ML on the Oracle Cloud Marketplace. So your customers would then kind of buy that from them using their universal credits. Okay, so we have a couple of more slides here, but those who know me know that I'm not a great person for slides. But you can see here the idea is we're going to be able to harvest and sync from OIC. So you can do initial harvest of integrations and projects and their integrations, and then you can have this catalog sync. So if any changes are made here, they will automatically be synced into the catalog. And then from the catalog, you can promote those APIs to the consumer portal, and that's where the developers come in. Okay, so let's go in and have a look at this, because seeing is believing. Now we go into my OIC instance. So one thing, folks, I just want to emphasize, and this is something I'm sure Nathan will be talking about in his session, the importance of projects. Now, we know you're getting your OIC Gen 2 customers onto OIC 3. That's the first step. The next step is to get their integrations into projects, because they are the basis of what we're doing in respect of business automation going forward. It's very, very easy to convert a package to a project, or else you can import individual integrations into a project. But let's go in. You see all of our projects that are listed here, customer management, all of those guys there. Now let's go into the portal. So I'm logging in here. This is the Integration Cloud API Catalog and Portal. I click on the catalog link, and then I log in, and here I am in the catalog. So the first thing that I would do in this respect would be I would import into the catalog. So you can see here, I click on OIC import. Now, an important point to note here is the Enterprise Edition Insight or Ignite product from Digital ML allows you to import APIs from a myriad of sources. Here, this is specific for OIC. So all we see here is the OIC import. So when I'm clicking on this OIC import here, sorry, I'm just handling this thing, you will see here, there's a place here where I enter the OIC credentials. So that's how, using the factory APIs from OIC, that's how these artifacts are harvested into Ignite, or as we say, the API catalog. The ones here marked in green are ones that have already been imported. And as you can see here, I can click on any of these guys. Let's go here to AA Order Processing Project. And here, I see here, this is the OIC view. So I see I've got REST APIs there. I've got SOAP APIs. I've got event-driven stuff. So event-driven from an OIC perspective will be subscribing to an OIC event, subscribing to a Fusion ERP business event, or a record change in the database, that sort of stuff. And of course, I have also the scheduled jobs. Now, from a developer perspective, it's the REST and the SOAP that are probably the most interesting. Yeah. So here I could import everything, import all of the integrations, or I could import individual integrations. So this is a decision the catalog administrator can make. Are some of these integrations private, so to speak, that we say we don't need to expose them to third parties, or else I can import everything. So let's go back and let's look at a project that I've already imported, which is customer management. Yeah. So within customer management here, you will see I've got these different integrations here. You can see that these guys have been imported. And if I click on this guy here, you will see this is all of the metadata that has been taken across from OIC. We see here the project name. There's the base URI for this integration API. We can see here the keywords that I entered in OIC. And there's a description that was entered when I created this integration in OIC. Interesting things here, I won't go through them all, but for example, I can add attachments here. So out of the box, I'm getting the Open API spec for this API, but I could also have maybe a requirements document or some other documents that give more in-depth explanation of what this API does. I could add those documents here, and I could have them published as well to the catalog. As you can see with this guy here, when I click on Deploy to Portal, you will see that this guy has already been published to the portal. So again, this is the API catalog. This is where the admin or whoever decides which of the OIC integrations are going to be promoted to the consumer portal. And if they want to augment that information by, for example, adding attachments here or whatever, they can do so. Another interesting point here is feedback. We will look at that in a moment. So now we go into, we're putting on the developer's hat. So we click on Consumer Portal, log in again, and you will see here, this is the Consumer Portal. This is fully configurable. In other words, the default is the article logo, but your customer can put their logo in here. The message here that you will find, you can customize that as well. And here you see some of those APIs. So if I go in here to the create customer service that we're looking at in the catalog, you will see what the developer sees. And the developer can click here and click and see, okay, there's a post method here, can click on documentation, can click here, and can, of course, try out this integration. So we see here, there's the request and there's the response. So we have that available to us here. They can download the OpenAPI spec by just clicking here. You see it's getting downloaded. They can also contact the provider and look for provider updates. So contacting the provider could be something like that. Is this API for Fusion sales and service, for example? So I can ask questions here. Now, what I can also do is I can also ask for API access. So I can click on this guy here, and I would like to ask, I say, what's my name? What's the email? And I say, what app are you connecting? Fusion ERP. And then I can just go down here and I can click submit. So let's go back to the catalog view of this. So we're going back into the catalog and we're going to go in. This time we can use the discover. We go to customer management. We go to create customer service and we click on feedback. And here we see the questions and we can answer those questions. Now, I've used this many times. So you will see there's a load of questions in here. But there's the thing, is this API for Fusion sales and service? I can do a reply on that and I say, yes, it is. And I can send that guy. And then you can also see here is the request to use that. And I could reply to say, okay, happy to give you access. Here are the creds. Here are the credentials for that, for example. And I just send it across there. So that's just showing you very, very quickly the life cycle of what we have here. Now, what we are doing with Digital ML is we're having an early adopter program where we're looking for customers to try this out for free for maybe 6 weeks to 2 months. Try this out for free. And I hope that you folks will help us get those early adopters. Because I'll say it is a cool new offering that we have that does, fill that space that we have had in respect of API management. Anyone wants more details, just email me. I'll be very happy to work with you on this. So I'm going to put on another hat now, and I'm going to look at what we're going to look at here is Oracle Managed DR. So I'm going to use a video that a colleague has created, my colleague Vernon has created for this, just to show you exactly what's on offer here. We're going in here to Oracle Managed Disaster Recovery. Now, I'm just going quickly through the video. I'm conscious of the time. You can see here, I'm just going up here a little bit, and let me just stop there for a moment. Yeah, so one click. So the whole idea is you provision a new OIC 3 instance and you say, I want DR. Currently, this is going to work between Phoenix and Ashburn. So the whole idea is to have other paired regions supported within 2025. And eventually, of course, this would be extended to GovCloud as well. The idea here is that we would use the paired regions that we already have in place for Oracle SAS. So, for example, in the US, that would be Phoenix to Ashburn. So you see the failover, failback, 1 hour RPO. And of course, you've clicked once, you've provisioned it. We've set up the whole infrastructure in the background for you. And we are doing the synchronization for you as well. So this is also very, very important. The design time artifacts. Also, the file stored on file server. Now, to begin with, this is for integrations and file server only. But of course, we will be looking at how we can implement this for the other OIC components going forward. You see, it's a common region-less URL. So, of course, the great idea here with this is it's the same URL. So a developer can use the same URL to log into the primary instance or to the secondary instance. So for a developer, this is all totally transparent. And as I say, to begin with, it's integrations file server and it's in active passive. So if you're looking at the complexity we have today with setting up customer managed DR, you see the CI/CD, you have to take care of that. You have to set all of this up yourself. Now, of course, it is doable, but then, of course, you have an overhead then of managing that as well. So when we look here, this is what we have from a Oracle managed disaster recovery topology. It's much simpler, but even that is all done for you. So how will you be actually doing this in real time? So when you're creating the instance, you will see then there'll be a new tab down here. You click an instance name. You select Enterprise Edition, then you go down a little bit here, and you will see there is then the Show Advanced Options. You click on Show Advanced Options, you will see a new tab there for disaster recovery. You click on that, and there is the one click. So it's not just one click, it's 3 clicks. In fact, hide advanced or whatever it is. So, but it's that easy. Now, there will be billing implications of this. But it won't be a case that, say, if you've got your primary site with 6 message packs, you will not be charged 6 message packs for your secondary site. Nothing like that. But once you've actually created that, you get your instance created, it'll create the primary instance, and it'll be marked as a primary instance. You will also see then that we have a secondary instance created, which will be marked as a secondary instance. So you will see this guy here. And then you see it's the primary instance, and you will see our other friend then is the secondary instance. You'll see the service or design time URL will be common. And there's the disaster recovery. So you see, click on that guy. And what the rest of the video does is a developer imports artifacts into the primary site. Then he brings down the primary site, clicks on fail over, and it fails over to the secondary site. And then from a developer perspective, it's totally transparent. He or she logs in with the same URL and sees the imported integration in the secondary site. And there you see, there is the same Service Console URL. So that's a very short introduction to the API catalog and consumer portal and to OIC and Oracle Managed DR for OIC. I hope it whetted your appetite. The OIC Managed DR will be Oracle Managed DR will be available in 24.10 release, which is actually the October release. So that would be the October production release, which will be, the second wave of October. And with that, Jürgen, thank you very much, and I hand it back to yourself and Nathan. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Neil, for a nice demo. You see, if you do live demos, you don't have any problems.
Yeah.
Quick 2 minutes we have for you for questions and answers. Does the one-click disaster recovery also include connectivity agent?
Yes.
That's a clear answer. Okay. Is disaster recovery also available for other technologies like FDI or OAC?
No.
Or ADW?
Like what we have is there is I think there's there may be something at OCI level, but for our OIC managed disaster recovery, it is just for OIC. And currently the only components covered, or the main components covered, are integration, file server. Okay.
Okay, so if the OIC instance is in Ashburn and the backup is in Phoenix, will the failover be transparent and without any changes needed from the customer side?
Yeah, there is the transparent failover if one data center went down, but there's also, as you saw there, the failover button. So I could actually failover myself. So there may be some reasons when a customer says, I need to failover, and then they can go and do that. Okay. So both options are covered there, Jürgen.
Big thanks from Vivek, just that you know. And can you please confirm the availability and timeline for disaster recovery?
That is 24.10 release, which is the October release, probably the second wave, which will be towards the end of October.
Okay.
Okay. So
that's only available in OIC 3, correct?
Only available for OIC 3, exactly. So I've got to, excuse me, please now, Jürgen, I've got to continue on.
Thank you very much.
So thank you very much, everybody, and looking forward to talking with you on the next webcast. Bye-bye.
And get me some fish and chips.
I will indeed.
Nathan, over to you.
Thank you, Jürgen. All right, so one of the big initiatives that we've been working on, and something frankly that's been getting a lot of interest and attention from our customers, both in calls that we've had with our customers as well as certainly out at CloudWorld, is this idea of transitioning OIC to become a unified and comprehensive business automation platform. So those of you who have been around OIC for some time, you'll recognize the fact that we have been a long-time leader in the application integration space. We've also, for a very long time, have had other automation technologies such as process automation. But frankly, all of these automation technologies have been a bit siloed. And so this move to this notion of a unified business automation platform is really focused on several different objectives. One is to consolidate the management of all of our automation technology. So integration, process automation, decision services, B2B, our new introduction of RPA capabilities, all of these being able to be managed in a single place. That leads to the ability to, or the opportunity for various stakeholders and skill sets to be able to collaborate together on different automation projects. So instead of just focusing on connecting apps and data, we can now more easily help customers automate those end-to-end business processes, regardless of what automation technologies are being used. Of course, by consolidating all this, we provide unified lifecycle management across all the automation technologies, unified observability, and of course, governance across all those technologies. No longer is the case where you have one team working on orchestrating APIs over on this kind of platform, and you have maybe a completely separate RPA Center of Excellence team doing their own thing off in a corner. All of this can be consolidated and we can help you provide governance over all those initiatives. And of course, with this, we're also not just simply unifying and combining these automation technologies into a single space to manage, but we're also enhancing the automation technologies that we bring to market. So for instance, providing new healthcare connectivity, as well as new native RPA capabilities that we just announced at CloudWorld. So let's take a look at an example of what this looks like from a product standpoint. And I'm going to use an example of a payables use case, so invoice processing. So of course, most companies will process the vast amount of their invoices electronically, maybe using something like EDI or whatever the case may be. However, for a variety of reasons, there's always going to remain this persistent and oftentimes a very non-trivial number of invoices that arrive at your doorstep, either as emails or PDF documents. And so a typical example might look something like this. An invoice is sent directly to a buyer. The buyer, of course, does their due diligence on the invoice. They may need to enter that invoice into a tracking system or a spreadsheet. Oftentimes, there's going to be some sort of internal departmental approval. Eventually, the invoice makes its way to the AP department, where they're going to have their own validation rules and policies. And then finally, that invoice is going to be entered into the financial system for processing. And so, of course, all of these steps, all of these manual steps can lead to a lot of friction in the business, right? So a lot of manual data entry, resulting not only in time, but also potential for errors. A lot of ad hoc communication resulting in maybe slower processing or quite frankly, even lost processing. So a number of different problems in how these invoices might get processed. And of course, it doesn't have to be invoices. It could be really pretty much any kind of documents or information that needs to be processed in the company. And so what I want to do is walk through using Oracle integration to say, how would we actually solve that kind of problem? And so the first place that we start here is in this notion of projects. And so projects really is the place where we bring all of these automation technologies together. So I have a number of projects here. Before we get started, let me jump into this Oracle Fusion Application Connections project. And we see that this project really just contains a number of connections. And we'll come back to this here in a second. But what we've provided is not only the ability to actually create connections within your project, but also to be able to share connections. And so as an example, this ERP cloud connection here, you'll notice that I don't have any any information here about the endpoint or the security or anything like that, we've actually defined this connection to be overridden by that shared connection that I had in that other project. And so this is really nice and convenient because you can actually create your connections within your project and then override them with connections that have been shared to you, meaning that if I have multiple projects that are using ERP Cloud Connection, I don't have to maintain each one of those independently. Every time the password changes, or if I move from test to production, I have to change the URL. I can simply say, yes, I have an ERP Cloud Connection in here, but I'm going to override the definition of that to use this shared resource and make it much easier to be able to manage those. So here we are in our invoice processing project, and we'll see that we have a number of different integrations. So we have down here this event. And if we take a look at this event is going to contain the information for an invoice. We see that there's one publishing integration, so an integration that will be used to publish that event. And we'll see that there are two subscribers, so two integrations that have been designed to subscribe to those events. One, this ATP insert invoice, which is already active, and this is simply going to write that invoice data to a database. And the other, this one that we're going to work on here in a little bit, this create invoice, which is going to be responsible for entering the invoice into an ERP cloud system. And so we can look at this and we can try to make sense of it. But one of the new things that we've added as a capability is this dependency diagram. And so with this dependency diagram, we're going to show all of the various components and how they're related. So this is not a runtime diagram. This is actually a design time dependency diagram. So here we see our invoice event. We see that we have this one publisher off to the left publishing the invoice. We see that we have two subscribers, this ATP insert invoice. We see that that uses an ATP connection, and we can see that the ATP connection has actually been overridden by this shared project. Likewise, we see this create invoice integration as a subscriber. It also uses an ERP cloud connection, and of course that ERP cloud connection has been overridden. So this is a nice little convenience, we think, that's going to help you to understand kind of the structure of your solution. If we were to take a look at this, create invoice integration, quite simple. We're going to subscribe to the event, so we're going to get that event payload, and then we're going to invoke that ERP Cloud adapter to create the invoice and map all of the invoice data that's coming in. So that's great, but if we look at if we go back to our problem statement here, yes, indeed, we are able to go ahead and define that ERP connectivity to kind of automate entering the data into the ERP financials application. But before we get there, we need to enforce some policies. And maybe one of those policies is that we need to we need to do some validation on the invoice. So as an example, a very common validation that might be done by a payables team would be to say we need to validate that the purchase order amount and the invoice amount are within some sort of tolerance, right? So maybe it has to be exact, or maybe if the invoice is overdue and it's not that big of an invoice, maybe there's some tolerance between those two numbers. And so we could, of course, bake that logic directly into the integration, but it's not a great way to kind of maintain that. And so what we've done is we've brought the decision services from our process automation product. We've brought those directly into project. And so now I can simply create a decision model or a policy that maybe takes an invoice amount and a purchase order amount. And then we can use all of the various decision modeling tools that we have available to us to kind of determine whether or not this particular invoice amount and purchase order amount are within the appropriate tolerance. So I've created a very simple rule here that just says they have to match exactly. But the nice thing about this is, of course, I don't really know what the AP team wants, but I can create this policy and I can actually then use that policy within the integration before we insert the data into ERP Cloud. And at any point in time, our AP team can come along and change that policy without involving me as a developer and without making any changes to the create invoice integration. Well, that's great. We're going to, of course, get the invoice amount information from the invoice event, but we also need to get the purchase order information, the purchase order amount. Now, we could, of course, use APIs to do that, but there may be cases where either we don't have access to APIs on the system maybe on our purchasing order system, or it's just not convenient right now to be able to access those APIs. And so for that, we are now providing native RPA capabilities within Oracle integration. And you can see that those are also embedded directly within the project. And so, for instance, if I wanted to actually create a robot that came over here to our ERP cloud system and actually fetch some information about the purchase order, I could very easily do that. So I would say I want to add a robot, and we'll call this get PO details. And let me log out of this because we're going to want to start from the beginning. And of course, as with anything, we're going to want to provide some inputs. And so we're going to pass this robot a PO number. And we're going to expect out of this robot a PO amount. So we defined our interface for the robot. And now we need to teach our robot how to use this application. So for those of you unfamiliar with RPA, RPA is really nothing more than a technology that allows us to train robots, which are nothing more than software scripts, that instead of calling Java APIs to fetch information or whatever the case may be, these robots will actually use the application user interface in the exact same way that we do as human beings. And so what it means is that you can actually create connectivity to applications without having the APIs accessible to you, simply by training the robot how to use the application. And so we're going to do that. First thing we need to do when we define our robot is to tell it where this application is, which application it should be using. Now, I could put the URL in here directly, but a much better thing to do is to use the ERP Cloud Connection and to simply say what we really want to do is use the URL for that. And the reason we don't want to do that, of course, is because we've now externalized that information, meaning that if we need to move this from test to production, we can actually change that URL without cracking open this robot code and kind of invalidating our testing. So now we have an entire palette here of various robot activities that we could use, but a much simpler way to do is just to simply record our activities and build a robot that way. So we'll enter the recording mode, and now we simply just use the product exactly as we normally would. So we want to enter the username and password. Again, this would be something that we want to use this robot connection, because we want to externalize those in case those need to be changed. And so we'll now choose our password, same thing. We don't want to externalize that as well. And we'll save that. And you'll notice that as I'm building this, that we're actually seeing the robot being built out next to this here in the canvas. I'll now sign in, and we'll now move on. And so now it's just a matter of just clicking through the application to get to the point to where we can actually get our purchase order information. And so we'll click into purchase orders. You'll notice also that all of this is completely browser based, and that we're actually building this robot not within some separate kind of robot studio or anything. We're building this directly within the context of everything else that we're building for this particular solution. So now we'll get to the fun part. You'll also notice here that I can both record as well as interact with the web page directly. And so in this case here, we're going to say that we're going to use this value here, 164157, kind of for our recording. But this is not what we want to train our robot on. What we want to train our robot on is to say, use whatever purchase order number has been sent in. So again, providing a little bit more engagement from the robot designer to be able to specify exactly what they're trying to accomplish and avoid having to go back later and kind of retrofit the code. So we'll click the search button, and we should now see our total, and we'll just grab here the total. Again, here the recorder thinks that because this is a clickable element that maybe we want to click on it. We don't really want to click on it. What we want to get is the text, and we want to actually take that text and put it into the purchase order amount. And so with that, we've created our robot. If we come back and take a look at this, we have our low-code robot here. Let me save that real quick, and that's going to do some validation for us. And so our robot is all good and validated. We could, of course, come into any one of these activities and take a look at the low code. And so if I, for instance, when we're doing the recording, we automatically create a number of pre-validation conditions to ensure that that everything is as expected as it was during the recording. You could, of course, change all of these. We've also done something else that's really handy. It's going to be handy because robots, obviously, using the user interface, are susceptible to big changes in the user interface. And so what happens, for instance, if this search button moves someplace? Well, we've actually globalized all of those. And so you can simply come in here and you can say, here's the target for that search button. It's being used both in that click element, but it's also being used in a pre-validation state. I, of course, could click on that search button multiple times in a more extensive robot. We're not going to create multiple search targets. We're just simply going to say, oh, you've already clicked on that. So now we have another usage of that. And what that makes, what that helps is that if later down the road that search button moves around somewhere, and I need to change the targeting of that search button, I don't have to search through all the robot code looking for wherever that's being used. I can simply come in here and I can simply change that target one time, and now that target now is updated across all of the various elements that are using that. So we'll save our robot, and we'll now assign it to execute under this finance environment pool. So an environment pool is nothing more than a collection of machines where the robots are assigned to run. In this case here, I've assigned the robot to only run on my machine. And now we'll go ahead and activate our robot. All right, so good. So now we have our robot to be able to go ahead and fetch the purchase order information. We have our decision model that's going to take invoice information and purchase order information and determine what to do with that, whether or not that's a valid invoice. Now we just need to come in here and update our integration. So we come in and update our integration. We've built robots directly into integration flow. So I could just simply say, I want to add a robot flow to this. I'll call this get PO details. And we'll see that it's going to go out and discover the robots that are in this project, which is the one that we just created. And we'll now add this. And you'll also notice that this robot now becomes like any other invoke, whether I'm invoking a database or an ERP cloud connection. This is just simply another invoke. And so with that, I need to do a mapping. And so we need a purchase order number. So let's look for the purchase order number in the invoice event. And there it is. So we just simply map that and we're good. And now we've gotten our invoice or our purchase order information. Now we want to pass both the invoice information and the purchase order information to our decision service. Again, decision service is now a first-class activity within the integration palette. So I can now start not only having all these different automation technologies, but I can now very easily orchestrate them in these integrations. So I'll call this invoice or AP policy, and we'll select our AP policy decision service. And again, just like calling anything, we'll be presented a mapper. We can now map the inputs into that decision service. And of course, that was taking the invoice amount and the PO amount. So we just search for amount fields here. And here's the amount due coming from the invoice. And I happen to know it's at the bottom. Here's the response from our robot, right? So get PO details robot is going to give us a response to the PO amount, and we can now map that here. Now we have to do a little bit more work here because that robot is actually pulling information off the user interface, which has been formatted with things like commas and maybe some other formatting. And so what we can do is we can say that in this case here, what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to replace any commas that might be in that formatted string. I want to replace those. So the PO number coming in, I want to replace any commas just with an empty string. So kind of a simple little reformatting there. And so now we've mapped data to our decision service. And now we would be calling our create invoice. Of course, we don't want to simply call it. We want to probably add something like a switch statement here. And the switch statement is going to it looks like it's going to maybe get hung up here a little bit. Let me just refresh this. Yep, there we go. So this switch statement here is going to allow me to say, let me take the result from our policy, which is what we call the interpretation of our policy, And if that policy returns true, in other words, it's okay to pay this invoice, then we'll create this condition within our switch statement. And now we need to move these two in here. So another new functionality that we've added is the ability to very easily cut and paste these activities into the switch statement. So I'm going to grab, and we can either do that directly from the activity, or you can come over here and select it and say cut. And so I'm just going to go ahead and move both of those into the switch statement. And now we probably go ahead and add an otherwise. So for instance, if it returned false, and maybe here we would have another business process to kind of human in a loop engagement for someone to go ahead and kind of fix or determine what needs to be done. And so there we have it. We have our integration. We're going to receive the event from somewhere, the invoice information. We're going to go out to the purchase order system, get the PO details, and then we're going to pass that to the policy. And if the policy is validated, we'll then go ahead and invoke our integration. So we'll close this and activate this integration. And so now if we go back to our kind of like problem statement here, we see that we've provided the connectivity, we've used various automation technologies to help us, and we've used integration to orchestrate all of those. The next thing I want to talk about here is a little bit about saying, hey, look, we have this entire business process up here. What we want to use is another automation technology that we have, process automation, as also using some AI capabilities. So this is a really great way for customers who are looking to get an AI to have a very easy start, and that is to be using our document understanding service to be able to automatically extract unstructured content into some data fields. And so with that, I'm not going to go through the entire building of this process flow here, but we have this business process. It's going to start with someone submitting a form. It's going to go through that departmental approval. And then ultimately, it's going to call that integration that's going to publish the invoice event. And so let's go ahead and run this. So we'll do our start processing. And we see here that we have this component that automatically connects to the AI services. We can simply drag and drop that invoice document in here. That's now going out to the AI services to extract all that invoice document, all the information from the invoice document and extract all those fields. So here's our document, here's all of our fields. We can also see here that it's giving us some warning here that maybe there's a low confidence in it being able to extract this invoice date. And sure enough, it did extract the wrong invoice date. So I can simply come in here and just correct this, and we're good to go. And so now I can submit this. So this would be the buyer now getting that invoice from the vendor and then submitting that invoice for approval. And if I come to our tasks, we see that we have this approval task here. I can simply review this information. This all looks good to me, and I'll approve it. And now that process now is going to invoke that publish invoice event. And that will invoke that our create invoice subscriber integration will now start running. One of the other things I want to show you here real quick is some of the observability things. So we already showed you some diagrams that were showing how to kind of see what the structure of your integrations and processes are and so forth. Here's something we're providing out of process automation. Oh, and here comes our robot. So our robot's now been invoked, and it's going to go off and do its thing. We don't necessarily need to watch it. This points out, by the way, so a lot of the RPA vendors, the only thing that they've got going on is really RPA interacting through these virtual machines, typically through the user interface. It's a great tool when you need it. Obviously, one of the downfalls is the fact that it can be brittle because it is susceptible to changes in the user interface. And it's also rather slow, right? So it's very difficult to kind of scale these types of connectivities because while they may be able to type very quickly, at the end of the day, they are kind of blocked by the speed of the user interface. So here we're actually showing that we receive the invoice 18 different times, 17 of those. So we can actually do a lot of bottleneck analysis. We're going to be expanding this to include the other automation technologies as well. And lastly, if we come back to our integration and we come into our observe, we can see that we had one of those published invoices events that were coming in from the integration. We can see that our ATP insert invoice was called, and it was invoked. And we can see that our create invoice is still processing. So we're probably still waiting for some results coming back from the robot. And so with that, Jürgen, I think that that's really all I had, but hopefully this kind of gives you a good overview of not only the various automation technologies that we're delivering to be able to give you the tools that you need, the right tools for the right purpose, but also how we're combining all of those into a unified platform, giving you that unified observability, giving you that unified lifecycle management and governance.
Sweet. Thank you very much for the awesome demo, Nathan. So there are plenty of questions. If you have questions, you can still post them in the Q&A and we will answer them in a moment. For more information, please register for the partner community to receive the monthly newsletter and to access the partner community website. You can find the latest blog posts on blogs.oracle.com/integration. And if you would like to try Oracle integration, activate a free trial. And as part of the documentation, we offer live labs, which will help you to build a proof concept. We are very much interested to promote your success stories. So if you have implemented integration 3 successful, please submit me the template. And all information are available at the resource page links OIC. If you would like to learn more about Oracle Robotic Process Automation, RPA, I posted in the chat a link for a personal demo. So please make use of it and contact the team. So we have plenty of questions, Nathan. So the first question is, when is RPA going to be available?
So RPA is available today. We have a number of customers that are in limited availability. So if you would like to learn more about this, actually either now or even into the future, just reach out to us. We'd be happy to get with you, look at your use case, see if it's appropriate to get you some early access. If not, we do plan on releasing this in GA come our October release.
Okay. And Singh would like to know if these robots are attended or can they also be unattended?
So these robots are all unattended. We are not currently supporting attended use cases. We'll look into that to see whether or not we want to expand into that market later. But right now, all of these are unattended. It looks like it was an attended robot because it ran directly on my desktop, but we just did that for testing and demo purposes. Obviously, if this was a production environment, we would actually install any number of virtual machines wherever you want them to be. You would allocate however many virtual machines you think that you need for your workflow into an environment pool and assign that to the robot. So there was also a question about the virtual machines. It is just like any other RPA technology. These robots, because they're using the user interface, need to run on the desktops. Typically, it's going to be a VM somewhere in a back office. We will be later next year adding a new capability, what we're calling autonomous agents or autonomous environments, to where you'll simply give us a blueprint of what you want that environment to look like. In other words, which desktop applications you want installed, and we will actually handle all of the environment management for you, to include scaling environments up and down based on your workloads. But that'll be something that'll be coming later, a bit later next year.
Okay. Mohammed has a very good point. He comments that he would like to get more information for the business and use case for OCI versus RPA. In your demo, you could have used also APIs, and why did you use RPA, or when should you use RPA and when should you use an integration via an API?
Now, this is the question, right? And this is really what separates when we are releasing this RPA technology versus maybe other RPA vendors. A lot of the RPA vendors have promised customers this vision of being, automation equals RPA. So all of their automation can be handled by RPA. That vision has largely not been met, which is one of the reasons why we're getting an enormous number of UiPath and Automation Anywhere customers asking us about this. We want to sell them on a different vision, and that is that automation is going to require a variety of different automation technologies. If you have APIs, you should be calling APIs. If you don't have APIs, we're providing this RPA technology for you to be able to interact with the user interface. The other thing too on this is that we've actually made this such that it's future-proof. You cannot invoke our robots directly. Our robots are always going to be embedded inside of an integration, meaning that today that process is going to be calling the integration, and maybe today it's being serviced by a robot. But tomorrow, I do have an API, or I've gotten the skill sets that I need to use that API, and I can simply make a new version of that integration, swap out the robot with an API. So this is it. This is the fundamental question, and the answer is that we're providing a number of different automation tools. It's up to you as the developers of those solutions to choose the most appropriate tool.
Cool. So Sandeep comment that in Oracle Content Management, we have content capture. Is there something similar in integration and in RPA?
Yeah, so content capture, I'm assuming you're going to mean something like the
Document scanning.
yeah, exactly. So quite frankly, there's a number of different solutions out there, and of course, the RPA vendors say that that is an RPA thing. It is not an RPA thing. Capture is really nothing more than a like an OCR, extracting the data from the document and then doing some semantic analysis to understand exactly what all that data means. And for that, we're using our OCI document understanding service, where you can simply submit a document to it and it will automatically extract the appropriate data. So it is similar in technology. Of course, if you wanted to use that, you could call those APIs there. But we're making OCI document understanding because we feel it's probably a more superior solution and kind of a go-forward solution. We're making that available directly, both from process automation as well as Oracle integration. So from Oracle integration, there'll be just like we had robots and decisions, there'll be first-class AI activities in there that you can simply drag and drop down to your palette. Say, here's some data from a document, go pull the data out, or here's some data, go pull the PII data out, or give me some sentiment analysis on that data.
What's the best way for a partner to get started with RPA within OIC?
The best way is to go out to our application integration website, take a look at the collateral that we have there. We have a number of videos and blogs, and we've given you access to our documentation. Take a look at it and then give us a call.
So there's the opportunity to contact Oracle to set up a demo for RPA, and you can also complete the feedback form, the survey at the end of the webcast that you would like to schedule a dedicated meeting with us. Nathan, thanks for the awesome demo. If you have questions, you can reach out to the team. Special thanks to you and Niall for the live demonstrations. For further questions, you can reach our product management team around the world, Neil in EMEA, Paulo Mota in South America, Ravi in North America, Ravi Pinto in India, Steve in Asia, and myself regarding partner questions. All information is published on the resource page, so please make use of our website. The documentation includes the live labs, which are really nice hands-on labs that you can use with the free trial. Please subscribe to our blog and newsletter. And for more information, post your questions in the community Slack channel. Once you leave, please complete the online survey and join us for the next webcast, October 28. Thanks for attending, and thanks to Kishore and Supani and the whole team for answering the questions.
How was the session today?
Dankeschön, thank you very much.